At what point where you, like legacy media, has completely outgrown the purpose for you that you have to go and find this thing for yourself?
So my editor, I don't want to take his name, very infamously told me that I should be investigating the chemicals being injected into chickens than into the corruptions in Modi government. So that's the day when I decided to leave.
I always raise this question to the legacy media people, which is the last story done by the legacy media in India? Which is the last story? I think the last story was, which is done by Josy himself, that what we call Commonwealth scam in 2013. After that, can you remember one single story done by the legacy media?
How difficult was that moment for you when those attacks came for you, Tulsi?
Being a Hindu, how can she question BJP like this? How can she roast BJP like this? That is their main problem. So they branded me anti-Hindu, anti-national, like all they brand newslaundry, news minute people, all the independent voices.
You know, journalists need not be the story, but you ended up being a story, right? And do you want to also talk about what the news ecosystem did to you in that manner?
I got a call from the police, and they asked me, Madam, people here are telling me that you are a terrorist. Are you? This was the question I first faced over phone. I was like, how easy to find terrorists in this country. Then I said, I am a journalist, I work with the Helka. Then he cut the call. After some time, he again called me and he asked me, who is your editor? Then I said, his name is Tarun Tejpal. One advice I always give to young journalists and journalism students: if you feel that you are in trouble, make sure that your editor-in-chief is also in trouble. Otherwise, you are not going to come out of that trouble.
I'm Anjana Meenakshi. I'm a reporter with the News Minute. Let's cap things off with a session which I hope will make you consider coming for day 2 of the Media Rumble. This is day 1. Day 2 has equally interesting things to offer. But we made it the last session for the day. It's titled Creating a New News Ecosystem. And trust me, it's worth the wait. Now, not to fall into stereotypes, but to borrow from George Orwell's 1984, Big Brother is watching. But each time we turn on the TV, we listen to the news, we read the newspaper, it feels like Big Brother is watching, but he's not really listening. They see, but they don't observe. And that's what big media has been behaving like. They can't separate fact from fiction. And if you put one alongside each other, they may not be able to tell it apart. And even if they could, they choose not to. So what does this mean for you, me, and many other common Indians? It's not that complicated. Trust in big media is waning. But it's not all that dystopian, right? Like, if you think about it, we are literally and figuratively not in 1984. Alternative voices have emerged. And with one video, one post, one article, with copious time spent on it, they are providing you the public service which we call news. And these are the bricks in the wall which we should celebrate because they are keeping the news ecosystem intact. And I, for one, thank you all for joining us and celebrating them at the Media Rumble. So today's session will discuss how new ideas have helped the media stay relevant without renouncing credibility. What is it like truly to connect with audience in an age where disruption is the norm? What is it like when outrage is the norm? More pointedly, what does the new news ecosystem, as we've titled it, have to offer? And what does it struggle with? These are all difficult questions, one which we cannot possibly condense in an hour, but we'll try, rather they'll try, and I'll sit and watch alongside you. To discuss all this and then some, we have with us today one Mr. Josy Joseph, an award-winning investigative journalist and writer based in Delhi. With a career spanning over 30 years, he's the founder of Confluence Media, a platform-agnostic investigative journalism outfit, where he wants to build a scalable, commercial, and viable model for quality journalism. He's also the author of 2 non-fiction books, A Feast of Vultures and The Silent Coup. We also have with us Shahina KK, an independent journalist based in Kerala. Shahina is known for her journalism on marginalized perspectives and untold stories, and is the recipient of the 2023 International Press Freedom Award and the Chameli Devi Jain Award. We also have with us Thulasi Chandu, an independent journalist and content creator based in Telangana. With over 15 years' experience, she started an independent YouTube channel to combat shrinking Telugu media spaces and a dearth of critical voices in the Telugu landscape. To discuss all this with these three people, we have with us our moderator for the day, Leena Reghunath. Leena is the managing editor of Himal Mag. She was previously the editor of the Supreme Court Observer, audience development editor at The Caravan, and a co-host of the News Minute's South Central podcast. A former lawyer, Leena is also the curator of the Wayanad Literary Festival. I request all of you to give a rousing round of applause as they walk onto the stage.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for staying back to the final session of Media Rumble today. Thanks, Anjana, for giving an introduction to all of us. We go from something international that has taken place, a discussion that has taken place on the stage, to something very regional. But before that, interestingly, in my introduction to the conversation today, I've also thought of something very international that is coming together in the new news ecosystem that we are going to discuss today. Earlier last month, I got an email from one of my ex-colleagues who's a creator of Guardian's long-form journalism unit, Jonathan Shahina. And he wrote in to say that he's launching a new news ecosystem, as he calls it, a publication, a digital website called The Equator. And in the letter, he was explaining why a publication like that was necessary in the times that we were going in. And he was forming it along with Pankaj Mishra and writer from India, Samant Subramaniam, and many other globally recognized names from across the world. And Samant again wrote to me later, and some of the things that Samant mentioned in his letter is something that I would like to quote here. He was talking about the Gaza and Israel war, and he was saying most infuriating of all was the coverage of the genocide in Gaza, of all the weaselly, sniveling things in which publications and news outlets pandered to Israel. To do so, they would even distort the very language they employed, calling slain children people aged 18 and younger, or identifying Russia as the author of wartime is violence but not Israel, or using words like slaughter and massacre when it came to Israelis but never of Palestinians. And by launching this new thing, what he was trying to say is that our new magazine wants to be different. It's founded, as I wrote somewhere recently, out of anger as well as optimism. So here with me, I have three people who have gone through mainstream media, won some of the best awards in journalism, done some of the most exciting work in Indian journalism, but then have given it all up, the protection of being in a mainstream legacy media, to start something of their own. So let me start with Josy, who started a platform agnostic investigative journalism unit. Josy, how many years has it been now out of the mainstream media? I think close to 10 now?
No, I left in 2018, the Hindu, so it's about 7-8 years.
7 years now. And how did this come about? Like, at what point where you, like legacy media, has completely outgrown the purpose for you that you have to go and find this thing for yourself?
I don't know if the legacy media outgrew me. It's basically legacy media was falling like 9 pins before Modi. And I thought I was writing more for censorship than for publication. And when it reached that level, I said I should not be wasting my time. So my editor, I don't want to take his name, very infamously told me that I should be investigating the chemicals being injected into chickens than into the corruptions in Modi government. So that's the day when I decided to leave. So it was not any maturing of my journalism. It was out of compulsion. And one of the big takeaways for me was that journalism that is dependent upon advertisements, especially in countries like India where the government is a big advertiser, where it's dependent upon too much of regulations, and even waiting for subscriptions is all not the best model. So I came out saying that maybe we should innovate and try and do something different. That's what we've been trying to do. We are still trying to do.
And with Shahina and Thulasi on either side of me, they both have been part of big media organizations and won enough and more awards to claim to their name. But then both have now started YouTube platforms. Shahina, do you want to talk a bit about your experience now that you have started OBC and what it means and what you're trying to do there?
My last association with this so-called legacy media was with Outlook. I left Outlook 3 months back, 3 to 4 months back. Then I started an organization of my own, which I had been planning for quite long, which is called Offbeat Concerns, OBZ, which is basically a media training institution, which I want it to be. It has a website, a YouTube channel. So the idea is to provide training to people, not just to media persons or to journalism students, but to the common public. There are a lot of people who do journalism through their own platforms, like their own social media platforms, but they need training. So my idea is to provide them training in fact checking, training in data journalism, training in digital safety, in all those areas, and gender reporting, of course, and war reporting, all those areas. So this is the idea. And what I learned from the 28 years of my experience with newsrooms of legacy media, that what a newsroom should not be. That's what I learned, rather than what it should be.
Right. So a lot of hope and optimism, I hope, that when you decided to start your own platform, and that is where Thulasi also comes in. Thulasi now runs a very successful YouTube channel that is making a lot of ripples in the place that it operates. Thulasi, you want to tell us about the hope and optimism there you have?
Yes, I left so-called mainstream media or legacy media in 2020 with my just 11,000 rupees mobile phone. That was only the hope. So I created my YouTube channel through the mobile phone. I edited all my videos. Since 1 year almost, my channel reached 1 lakh subscribers till the time. I edit my videos, I edit my thumbnails, I edit long format videos in my mobile phone only. So night and day I worked so hard. I was only one person at that time. Now I have few people with me. We are very small team, but we are creating lot of impact in the Telugu space. So we are the people wherever the problem need to address. So the people directly approaching us. So we are going there, or I'm directly contacting them, and we are making stories. So most of my videos got viral or popular in the Telugu space because of the genuinity and my passion towards journalism. When I was I worked in both desk and a field also when I was with the legacy media. At that time, I didn't get much opportunities. I'm a very passionate journalist. I want to do more people centric videos. One of my bosses said, why are you always picking those kind of sad stories or sorrowful stories instead of lifestyle content, lifestyle news stories? So and all the regional language popular media channels and newspapers directly or indirectly supported by the political parties. So I clearly observed it and I worked most of them. So I decided to start my own channel by inspired by Dhruv Rathi, in the national and Nas Daily, who was posting awesome content in the Nusair. And in Tamil Nadu, Madan Gauri was doing so well, and in the websites, Wire is doing awesome job on News Minute, Newslaundry. So to looking all these websites and people, basically I'm the real passion is there, the fire is there within me. I know what I can do. So I just started, and the people love my content. Now we created a very good self-sustainable model. So we are doing so well. Thank you.
That's
Sorry,
great.
my English is not good, but I'm trying to express from my heart.
It's good. I think we all come from very small towns and regions, so that language barrier exists for all of us. But there are now so many platforms where journalists with a lot of vision and abilities have gone out and built those platforms. Like maybe Zetio is one with Mehendi's name to it. But what I, in my personal experience, I just wanted to be a reporter. If I would talk a bit about my personal experience, I just wanted to be in a quiet corner, left to dig my own story, to build it up as a long form writer, to go out on the ground, to just put the story out and not be the story myself, I was sort of built in that old style print journalist format in my head. But because I very early stage, I detected that I had no space in a mainstream media. All and most of my work had only been in the independent media space, which gave me a lot of freedom to find myself as a reporter and to explore my strength and come out. But even because it was an independent media space and a small newsroom, and we have the legends who have built the small newsroom in this room, Danya there, and Manisha and Abhinandan and all of them around us. But what I learned is that you have to constantly reinvent yourself. So when Danya asked me to come on her podcast, I was like, Danya, I know nothing of being in front of a camera and put the gyan out, be an armchair sort of that we had all made fun of the grand old men of Indian newsrooms who can editorialize on anything and everything. And I said, Danya, I'm not that, but that is the challenge of the new media, that as a journalist, I think we have to constantly reinvent ourselves. Like what you're saying, you learn to edit, you learn to do a thumbnail by yourself, learn to manage a YouTube platform, a new digital ecosystem by yourself, right? Josy, and that's maybe one of your main challenges too, right? Being one of the best investigative journalists who can open and do the conversations and get the sources talking. Now you have to go behind the fundraising and managing and driving reporters on the ground and all of that. So what are the challenges? How do you keep reinventing yourself? How does that happen for you?
Reinvention happens for various reasons. I think in my case, thanks largely to Modi ji. I had to learn script writing because I had to earn money somewhere, right? Then I had to, the other thing that I picked up very early was that that even the so-called foundations that are supposed to support independent media in this country get scared. So I've had my own great learning curves with this the philanthropy side. So my realization was that if you earn your own money, you can use it your way. So we are constantly striving to find revenue. So I do script writing or book. We are now launching our YouTube channels. We co-produce a series. We make documentaries. We do research for people, whatever it is. But we are determined about finding money without compromising our values, by deploying our skill and by respecting journalism as an intellectual property. In the last 300-400 years of modern journalistic business, what you see consistently is that journalists forgot the most important thing that they produce is journalism. Instead, they started, and thanks to many of the media barons, they started becoming fillers between advertisements in newspapers. And they didn't realize when they slipped into mediocrity. And 40 years ago, 50 years ago, when the internet began to evolve, the entire news industry just was taken aback. the last innovation they did was to improve probably the printing press. And after that, it has all been by the tech bros. And all of us are trying to create little Instagram handles or YouTube videos. So I think it's time that we reclaim, and that's what at the core of what we do in our office, other than bad jokes that we do, but we're trying to reinvent journalism and treat it with the dignity. And if you don't want to respect my journalism, you have no space in my life, is the idea. I mean, we have taken to that. The second thing is that having been part of the mainstream media, one of the things that I took away was that the game is fixed ever since the new government came. Before that, every time one had taken on the government, it was retail bullying. But these guys were different. It was almost like a mafia state in operation. So we said that we also have to change the game. I'm not going to play the game by the rules. And the rules of our game, we don't intend to explain. And I think we are playing well.
I think far before Modi brought this complete Hindutva politics to the forefront of it, there has been so many blowbacks of what Hindutva majoritarianism has in this country. And I think, Shahina, I don't know whether you want to speak a bit of a personal journey, but we all know of the courage that Shahina had to put up, not by choice, but by the stories that she did and by the circumstances and the backlashes that she has been put through. So, journalists need not be the story, but you ended up being a story, right? And do you want to also talk about what the news ecosystem did to you in that manner?
One advice I always give to young journalists and journalism students: if you feel that you are in trouble, make sure that your editor-in-chief is also in trouble. Otherwise, you are not going to come out of that trouble. If your editor-in-chief is also in trouble, you will come out of it in 48 hours. So this is the lesson that I learned from my experience. Actually, I worked in television, I worked in the print, I worked in digital, and I started in my journalism in a television channel in the analog time, not even in the digital time. Yeah, I am pretty old, not like that I look like. This thing happened when I was working with Tehelka. Obviously, every single journalist worked with Tehelka has a case, I think. So I also have. I traveled to Karnataka to do a story on a bogus charge sheet against a Malayali arrested from Kerala in connection with a bomb blast case. I mean, the bomb blast happened in Bengaluru in 2008. And one Malayali was there in the charge sheet, and I found that all the witnesses against him were fabricated witnesses. And I investigated that. I traveled to Karnataka. 3 witnesses were in Kerala, and the other 3 were in Karnataka. Then I talked to them. They talked to me, and they told me that they don't know anything about these allegations against this man. They haven't met him. Even and one person was he was a Muslim, and he was forced by the police to give a testimony against this man. So I did that story in Tehelka. I had a hidden camera with me, and I shot everything. That they were talking to me, I shot it. And then immediately after I left, I got a call from the police, and they asked me, "Madam, people here are telling me that a cop, like I think he was a local guy, that you are a terrorist. Are you?" This was the question I first faced over phone. I was like, how easy to find terrorists in this country. Just pick the phone and call and ask and verify whether this guy is a terrorist or not. So how easy. So I actually didn't know what to tell them. Then I said, I am a journalist. I work with the Helka. I showed him my identity card, everything to the cops there, to the people there. So it's like, then he cut the call. After some time, he again called me, and he asked me, "Who is your editor?" Then I said, his name is Tarun Tejpal. So then he said, "Who is that?" I said, "He is Tarun Tejpal." So this was the experience. Now I am laughing at it. But then an FIR was filed against me. It was a simple FIR under IPC. Then I applied for an anticipatory bail. but and there was argument happened in the court on the anticipatory bail. But on the day of the court put anticipatory bail for order, and on that day, the corps filed one paper in the court like UAPA is charged in this case. So then immediately the lower court rejected it. Then I went to the high court. It took around 7 months for me to get anticipatory bail. But I don't know anyone else in India who got anticipatory bail in a UAPA case. I think I am the only one. I don't know. So honestly, I haven't met anyone else. And that journey started in 2010. Then now it is 2025. I'm still fighting that case. The trial is happening in Bengaluru. I'm traveling to this town once in every month for attending the case in the court. So this is happening, and during the first phase of this travel, I used to travel to Madikeri, in the southern side of Karnataka. So at that time, it was like I was being followed and chased by people. A lot of people who, total strangers were, chasing me. I was feeling like people are watching me. So the way I used to travel, I take one bus from one place and I get down at some other place, take another bus and go to another, go to a different direction, like just to, get away from these people. So I was feeling like, it was actually, I was running. So I was feeling like, oh my God, I'm acting in a whole Bollywood movie. It was like somebody is chasing me and somebody like, so it's all very, it's all very commercial kind of a movie. So now that journey is still going on. But what happened was that, in fact, now I think I am sitting here because I faced all these issues. And one thing I learned from my experience is that the newsrooms in India, actually, the newsrooms in India, they never empower their journalists. They never empower their reporters. They never empower their journalists. They never tell them, there is no safety in Indian newsrooms. Certainly, there is no safety. Nobody tells you what would happen if you go to a place. No, there is no standard operating procedure. There is no SOP. Even when I was working in Tehelka, you all know one very young Tehelka photojournalist died in Jharkhand when he went to report some health story. He was infected with malaria and he passed away. So there was no precaution, there was no medicine, nothing, and so this happens everywhere. So this is I think it is the same till now. I don't think there is a change. So even after this Tehelka experience, I worked in mainstream media for 18 years. I worked in Open Magazine. I worked in Outlook. But everywhere I see the same. You are just the tools for. I'm talking to the reporters, young reporters here. You are only the tools for getting money. You are only the tools for getting their work done. So from over the past 28 years, I have been thinking about how to bring up a different kind of a culture in newsrooms. So that's why I said in the opening thing, like I learned how a newsroom shouldn't be, rather than how a newsroom should be. So then later I realized that everyone who had gone through such experiences come out of this so-called legacy media, and they are working independently. They are doing their own things. And when sometimes I feel very low, I used to call Josy, and I never get him on phone. He never picks up, but sometimes he calls back. But he calls back. So I see people around me, and Leena is another person. So people, that resilience. So we get this sense of resilience. We get this power from the people around, and everyone is working independently. And I always raise this question to the legacy media people, which is the last story done by the legacy media in India. Which is the last story? I think the last story was which is done by Josy himself, that what we call Commonwealth scam in 2013. After that, can you remember one single story done by the legacy media? After that, the one story which was the death of Justice Lawyer, which is being done by the Caravan, and another story is the recent one is this electoral bond scam, again by a group of independent journalists. So this is the situation of the legacy media.
The reason that I made Shahina open up about her story is because I used to go and speak with young media students, and some of those people have this image of some Bollywood movie where Rani Mukherjee would be jumping on the car of her editor-in-chief and gullifying and all of that, and that is their idea of how brilliant stories are and how resilience looks like or how courage looks like. But I have accompanied Shahina in one or two of her court sittings, and to stand among the culprits, stand with the police, look like a culprit in that courtroom, go and stand in that witness box for 15 long damn years. 15 long damn years with no organizational support, take the money out of your pocket. Of course, there are organizations that today fight for journalists like Shahina, but to do that, you have to every day keep your life aside for this court hearings and go there and stand and be a witness to this. And that is what, to me, what courage looks like. That's the reason that I made her say that story. And something again that I want to tell you what courage looks like and what happens when you leave. Of course, legacy media doesn't protect you, but there, when you don't have any media backing, when you are running your own YouTube channel and you get attacked from all sides, Thulasi, like how you have been. And I don't know what it has meant to you, but the Network of Women in Media, when it came out with the statement to support you, and I have among the audience the veterans who gave us that place of a safe space for all us women journalists here, and I'm really grateful for what they have built for people like us. But does all that support mean anything for you when they come hounding for you without a name, legacy media? In some ways, at least, that name becomes a protection, that colleagues becomes a protection for you. So how was it? How vulnerable and how difficult was that moment for you when those attacks came for you, Thulasi?
Actually, I'm still facing a lot of difficulties, but nowadays I'm just ignoring what's going on around me, and I'm focusing on my work. So I just published a video after attending few hours back also from this room. So I'm working like that. In when I in the after few days I started working on and countering this nationwide hatred uh, pouring by BJP and its WhatsApp University. I started countering and showing proofs, kind of videos or analysis based on the trends going on in the Twitter and all around us. So majority of the people suspecting me, she's not Thulasi. Her name is not Thulasi. The problem of them is not about my reports. The real problem uh, about my name Thulasi, it's a sacred name. So, being a Hindu, how can she question BJP like this? How can she roast BJP like this? That is their main problem. So, they branded me anti-Hindu, anti-national, like all they brand newslaundry, news minute people, all the independent voices. So they named me Soni Ayan, Ayesha, Qureshi. Lot of videos they cooked, a lot of stories they spread, and they morphed my photos. They threatened me through international calls. I filed cases, but nothing happened. Ministers also responded, home ministers also responded, but nothing happened. No one booked. So gradually I realized that I'm not doing wrong. I'm doing my job. So why should I react? Why should I file cases? It's not my duty. And protecting me is the duty of the system. And I little bit carefully I'm going out and working with my team, little bit consciously, but I'm not stopping anywhere, and I'm working more hard, and not only from the BJP side. Interestingly, in my case, I have been targeted by all the parties, troll armies, all the parties, all the major parties in Telugu states. Uh, right now, TDP thing is going on. TDP people's job is going on me now. Recently, I exposed their PPP model. So that's why that is going on right now. That is the great update, trolling update from my side. And BRS people trolled me, Congress also trolled me. So this is one kind of a certificate that I'm genuinely working my job. So I'm not caring about any trolls, and people also realizing and recognizing that she is a credible journalist. She did a research piece, or she did a investigative story. We can trust her, we can support her. So that kind of supporting I have been receiving. Few people are there, like do you know uh, the chitti kind of thing, what it called, we can invest monthly, right? So few chit fund, few uh, veteran journalists or few supporters are there. Every month, the first day, first of every month, they sent me 1,000 rupees, 500 rupees, like that. There are government employees, retired employees, students, and more people started YouTube channels also. They are raising their voices, and I'm also started one YouTube channel to encourage marginalized journalists. So at least to give space to more SC, ST, and minority journalists. I want to share my knowledge, my experience. I want them to open their YouTube channels and or their own websites or whatever they want to. So I want to support them, and that is my biggest dream right now. So to create at least 100 journalists like me, I want to create 100 Thulasi Chandus.
That's a very inspirational story to hear. But also to take a bit back on what independent new ecosystems would mean. I think I'd dig into one of the stories that Danya had told me in the early phase of when she started Newsman. She was like, she thought that her name is famous enough that when she starts her own channel, people would just come. And this is a story Danya loves telling everyone. And I hope you haven't told this on this stage, so I'll use that story here. But she was like, everyone would immediately start paying up because they trust Danya's voice and they'll trust the story. And that's not how it ends up being. Because making good news reports, sending reporters on the ground, which is what journalism is all about, right? To get you the true picture from the ground and enable those stories, get the facts right, get that fact checked, get that edited and put it out into a form. But just putting it down to the form is not anymore enough, because I remember being in a newsroom when websites, news websites, a big thing. We were like, take everything in print, put everything on the website. Suddenly we'll get all over, everyone who has a computer will just come and read our stories. But that's not the truth anymore. Now we are looking at, oh, let's segment our audience, right? How cleanly can we segment? What is this segment of audience want? Or are we giving them what they want? And let's put them into as small segments as possible to understand what their behavior is and what they want and how we can tweak this. And we just have an AI facilitated newsroom class here where, how what we produce, the multiple kind of big mainstream media produced content can be tweaked using AI tools for different kind of audiences who come with different kind of interest to a newsroom. So it's constantly doing journalism just because we are, our name is trustworthy and we are great, doesn't bring us the money to run this platform, which we all very idealistic journalists have learned the hard way, right? That I have been more years out without a job than I've been in a job, because there is very little space that is available that can afford that kind of jobs to journalists like us who still believe in the true cause of journalism. Josy, do you want to talk a bit about his struggle? And Josy says that he anxiety medications are part of life when you try to live this life. You want to say a bit of what that means?
I'm sure most of us sitting in the hall have some or other medical challenges, so I don't think it's something that now should be glamorized. But the fact is that, struggle is, I'm not somebody who want to look back upon the struggles, but the fact is that I think what happens is, if you're determined about doing something, like all of you are, I think we'll achieve that, right? So I think the fact is that when I left the mainstream, I saw 2-3 things that was very evident. One was that there were no institutions in this country which were willing and capable of supporting independent journalists without any conditions. Those were willing to support had too many conditions. So I think kudos to somebody like Newslaundry, who broke away from that model, went straight to the audience and connected with them. And I think they could scale up several times more, and I think News Minute is following the same path. That's one. So one of the things that I and whoever else is around have been trying to do is to be that informal support system for independent journalism journalists to do, and I think that's one of the things. Second thing is, I was just telling this girl who was interviewing me that, I was telling her that she said, "Is university journalism dead?" I said, "No, actually we are living through the most glorious period of this country, because Mauritius, one example I've seen, that was remained the secret jurisdiction for 40 years, pumping in money into India, all kinds of politicians, criminals, everyone was pumping money into India through the Mauritius route. And for the first time, a group of journalists breached, and they brought out millions of emails of the Adani group manipulating stock market. It was not Hindenburg. It was brought out by a group of journalists, Indian journalists, and they collaborated with the Financial Times and Guardian and brought it out. Hindenburg really hindered it. So I think that breach was massive. If you look at the electoral bond stories, first the News Minute, Newslaundry team established a certain pattern potentially behind BJP's donations. And when the electoral bond data came out, I think the way the alternative media forced the mainstream media to respond to it is amazing story. So I think we are living through a great period of investigative journalism. You don't see that on the idiot box and among the circus that's happening on television channels or in the newspapers. What you see there is actually the requiem of, they're writing their own requiem, Those are the last gasps from what is called the legacy media. I don't think they're going to last too long, because more than technology is a big factor, but more than technology, I think if you see the average mainstream television news reporter is unable to confidently report from the ground because he's being attacked, criticized, and all that. You can see it across India and Nepal, or Bangladesh, wherever you go. So I think it was not a struggle, it was a privilege to support and enable independent journalism in these times. The second was, again, as I said, thanks to some great teachers like Modi, we were forced to learn new skills. Otherwise, I would have been sitting in that astrologer predicted room in Hindu where my door opened a certain way. I sat in my new room for 2 days without door because somebody said auspiciously Josy's door should open to left or right, but whichever way. So I sat there like a, naked national security editor without any security for myself till the doors are fixed. So um, I think we needed to go through this phase, and when this phase ends, and that won't end with Modi. There are far too many little Modis out there in all the political parties. When this phase ends, or whoever comes next, I think at least some of the journalists are far more equipped to deal with those kind of bullies and authoritarianism. And that is there's no struggle. It's a great privilege that I've been having. The struggle is to write a good non-cliched script. That's a struggle.
We have less than 10 minutes remaining, and I want to open up to the audience questions because I think they will have much more interesting questions to ask than me. But Shahina, I think you want to pass a closing comment.
Yeah, I just want to say something like Josy is more like a motivational speaker to all of us. Like whenever I feel so low, I told you that I used to call him, and this is something he always tells. Like we are going to be the mainstream. Like the other mainstream is gone. Like within the next 5 to 10 years, we are going to be the mainstream. But seriously, I am not very confident. Like I am a bit skeptical because when we talk about all this new model and all this alternative models, it all happens in the English. I mean, like the regional media, the local language media is really struggling. Like yeah, a YouTube channel may work or may not work, but when we talk about the new media in local languages, like whether it be Malayalam or Tamil or Telugu, Hindi may be different. Like the audience is vast. So the question is, what is the revenue model? How all this new media survive? I think we really need to find answers to those questions, and we need to reinvent new models to move on.
Right, Thulasi, any closing comments? I want to open up to the audience from. Okay, I'll quickly take 2 questions. I think I might have time. So yes, whoever has the mic, 3 questions. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Manan, and so my question is about, we had the discussion on a new news ecosystem, and ecosystem is essentially all the stakeholders, organizations, journalists, and the audience. So that's the part that I want to ask about. The audience's role has also evolved over due to technology. With radio and TV, we were passive. We were just consuming passively, but now with social media, we're becoming active. And with organizations like Newslaundry and News Media, we're even becoming, News Minute, we're even becoming active subscribers. We are funding. So what else can the audience do? And like, if you imagine this going forward, the news system in India improves, what would the role of audience look like in that?
What an audience can do is, there is somehow, if I can take that question, there is an idea that we need big money from big corporates or big money from big advertisers to run a newsroom. But if at least a small segment of the audience that watches us really can give the money for the coffee to a newsroom, that can fund great journalism. And that's what the audience doesn't understand. There is somehow this belief that this news is being produced out of nowhere because an idiot stands in a newsroom and screams, and that is considered as news. The value of what exactly news means, how much it takes to put a reporter on the ground. I have great reporters in the room in front of me. Like what it takes for them to cultivate those sources and bring those stories, that will tell you what the political climate is, or where it is going, or what the wind is changing. That needs a hell lot of investment and editors back in the room. And it is that kind of money that is not reaching independent newsroom. And what the audience can do is really be our voices on the ground, be the voices of good journalists that you can see on the ground. Help us get that kind of, because everyone knows someone who can keep aside money for a coffee or some celebration and give it to a news media. But that kind of philanthropic thought is quite missing in the Indian or South Asian audience. I guess that kind of philanthropic thought we find more in a Western audience. Yeah, Josy?
Can I just add? I think those of you are not giving any money to independent media. I would strongly recommend please switch on every day for 6 hours mainstream television news channels, and in the morning, please read all the newspapers. After 6 months of crash course, you will definitely end up knowing what you should do.
Tulsi, what would you ask from your audience? What would you want from your audience to take that question?
Actually, I always believe that if I give a great listening or great watching experience by the hard hitting news also, so people definitely will realize, yes, it is worth to pay. Yes, they put their hard work, because I'm a very good storyteller. So in I write and present in a storytelling format, and I connect the people. So mine is an independent journalist, and my channel name is also Thulasi Chandu. So I can easily connect the people. The people like me, Drurati or Abhishek Banerjee. So as the individuals, we are connecting the people. So that's why when compared to other media organizations, we are more connecting to the people. So people are directly connecting with us, and they directly requesting the videos, and they are funding like that. They are directly donating, or they are sending money, they are supporting, or they are taking YouTube paid subscription. So I believe that to encourage and to give that experience, give that value, will help us to survive.
Can I take the next question from the audience? Yes, please. Can someone get a mic?
Firstly, a big salute to all of you brave journalists for doing the kind of work that you do. We have some of the bravest and the most talented journalists here for this workshop. And we've been talking mostly about credibility of the current news ecosystem. So if all of you get together, can we have a credit, like banks have credit rating agencies? If the most veteran, no, it's true, the most veteran journalists of the country, if you guys get together and if you can maybe rate your peers instead of credibility being bought by commercial organizations, if veterans of the field who understand the game, if you have measurable parameters as to how to judge and rate a journalist based on research they have done over the years, their specialization, things like that. If we have a credit rating agency for newsroom, wouldn't you think that people would see the credit rating and see think twice before watching some of the 9 p.m. news anchors? Thank you.
Do you work for Sibyl by any chance?
I own a grocery shop.
Grocery. But on a serious note, there is some merit to what you said, according to me. Not necessarily being ranked by journalists with sense of self-importance on others, but there definitely can be a system by which some of us are experimenting with, based on a blockchain model. We are trying to do based on impact, output, deadlines, previous work, fact check, etc. There is a credibility system that can be built up, which can ultimately provide readers some kind of assurance about the kind of material. So yeah, sorry about the bad joke, but
Yes, the last question.
My question was also about the fact that legacy newsrooms have a second problem, which is that power tended to be very centralized. And I think that's why reporters weren't empowered, and you actually see that being repeated across a lot of different newsrooms, where the identity of the newsroom is centered around one person sometimes. And I feel like all of you in your own ways are sort of trying to break away from that model. So it'd be great to hear from you about that.
I think there is a mutual appreciation club on that corner. Yeah. Somebody filed a case on me, and that somebody is in jail or something has disappeared. So I think that's in the past. So anyway, it's just that the only boasting point for me is that I happen to indemnify the Murdoch family and his empire against any financial losses from the defamation suit, and that's and some few lakh rupees loss in legal fees. But I don't think. Please be assured that in India, whoever files whatever cases, nobody pays any money for defamation suits unless you are really idiotic. Like this recent case of a Twitter handle who's asked to pay 5 lakh rupees. But if you're doing journalism and credible journalism, no court in India is going to force you to pay any money. So yeah, that's it. And I think I know you because you used to come to our office with cakes. That time we did a lot of good journalism. But the decentralization what she's talking about is what we need, because I think the time has come, and because there used to be this columnist who told me once that more journalists have destroyed themselves by their sense of self-importance than by alcohol, and I think that's a fact. And I think we need to reduce our sense of self-importance, and I think we should just take this as service. It's a great privilege. It's a great privilege. Once I was at the airport, somebody came to me and said, "You're Josy Joseph." I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Can I take a selfie?" I read my book. And a second guy came and said, "Can I take a selfie?" I said, "Sure." I said, "Do you know who I am?" He said, "No, I don't know." I said, "Then why do you want a selfie?" He said, "No, I'll do a reverse image search and locate you." So that's journalism. I mean, journalists are not known outside of Khan Market and what's your area? SBI, that square. So I think journalists have to shed their sense of self-importance and do your journalism. Actually, most journalists, even the independent ones, are doing mediocre work. I think we need to step up the quality of work. We don't need to be waiting for Supreme Court to give us a data of electoral bonds. We should be fishing it out. Thank you.
I think with that note, I'm ending the discussion. Thank you so much for being such a great audience. Thank you.